Welcome to the Bariatric Bros podcast. I'm Mike Alley. I was a foodie and a big guy. I had bariatric surgery, lost over 140 pounds. So I'm no longer a big guy, but I am still a foodie. We talk about living that bariatric life and eating like men. I hope that you are having a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while. Hey, I want to start this podcast episode by saying a big thank you to everyone who supported the Bariatric Bros podcast walkers team in the Walk from Obesity a couple of weeks ago. We raised $650, and overall the walk raised over $78,000 for the foundation that is helping to work on making education about obesity more prevalent out there, about what it causes, all the issues with it, access to care like bariatric surgery, making that more available for people. So again, thank you if you donated and made a difference. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to doing it up bigger and better next year. And we're also going to be involved in other great charities that really support the bariatric community, especially those who don't have the financial access to getting these kinds of procedures. So more about that coming up in the upcoming weeks. But again, just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who supported the walk across the country. On the podcast this week, some cool stuff. We got our Bariatric Bro Shout Out coming up in a minute. One of my new obsessions, and I think you're going to be excited about it. I'm excited about it, so I hope you will be too. And I'm having a great conversation this week with someone I've known most of my life. So I hope that that will also be something that you'll like, that you'll be interested in. I've had the reason for the conversation, I'll talk about it, is I've gotten some emails and some messages from folks about an issue, especially when it comes to your partner's support of your bariatric journey. And so thought it'd be a good idea to talk to mine. Our Bariatric Bro shout out this week is for Kenny from the Shrinking 400 Instagram account. Kenny, congratulations. I have been following Kenny since I really got into the bariatric community on Instagram. First off, impressive that he started at over 400 pounds. He's down to 215 pounds. That is a loss of over 190 pounds. And that, of course, is huge. But I love what he puts on his Instagram. Right in his bio, he says, leave a legacy. And whether we think about it or not, our journeys are a signpost. Our journeys are a message to others of what they can do with a tool like this. And so his idea of leave a legacy has really stuck with me. As a matter of fact, Kenny just posted this past week, a few days ago, about going out to a corn maze and saying that basically one of his non-surgical victories is that he was able to go play with his niece and nephew in this corn maze. He's got some great pictures on his Instagram of him doing that. So it's not always about, oh, hey, look how cool I look, or look how much better I look. Look, a lot of us, especially when we deal with massive weight loss, we're dealing with a lot of loose skin. We may look better in clothes, but out of them, sometimes it's a little crazy to look at. But it's about those other things, like Kenny being able to, as he put it, be a fun Uncle Kenny and go and play with the kids in the corn maze. And so, Kenny, that's why I just love the positivity you put out there, the way that you encourage other people, the way that you're honest about your journey, because that is what this community is all about. So, Kenny, thank you for all that you're doing to support the bariatric community, Bariatric Bros, and being a light in what we're doing and leaving a legacy. We love that. So you've got the Bariatric Bro shout out this week. If you would like to nominate someone for a Bariatric Bro Shout Out, it's simple to do. You can send us a DM on any of our socials. You can also shoot us an email. It's simple to do. bariatricbros@gmail.com. Just put in their Instagram or Facebook handles so that we know how to kind of check them out. But if you want to nominate someone, we'd love to shout out all of our great Bariatric Bros. Well, not too long ago on Instagram and right here on the podcast, I was telling you about one of my new obsessions, and that is chaffles. Yeah, once I found them, I loved it. I loved it. So I was on Instagram and came across a really cool account, Steve I, the Chaffle Guy. And as a matter of fact, he kind of messaged me because he saw me posting about making a chaffle in my little Dash waffle maker. And that got us into a conversation. Even though Steve is not a bariatric bro, he did get into this to help him lose weight, but he's taken it to such another level. And so I wanted to talk to him and find out more about this. And I had a crazy idea. So I first asked Steve how he got in to doing all this with the chaffles. And he told me it started right after COVID hit back in the spring.
I was sitting around and unfortunately getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and decided I needed to do something about it. So I decided to take on a low-carb diet, started losing weight, but I really missed bread. I couldn't make a sandwich. I couldn't have anything that I really desired. And I was getting pretty frustrated. I stumbled across chaffles on the internet, and I thought, wow, what is this thing? And I went out and bought myself a $10 unit. First one I made was absolutely terrible. I misread the ingredients, and I put in coconut flour instead of almond flour, and I ended up with a brick. I made myself an almond flour one, and it came out absolutely fantastic. And it was like, wow, I finally have got something I can live with and enjoy and not affect my weight.
I do want to hear a little bit of your background because you and I have chatted a little bit on the internet and all that before. But so just tell everybody, like, what was it that you used to do?
Well, I'm originally from Canada. I now live in Las Vegas. And I grew up just like a normal kid doing regular things, played golf, spent a lot of time doing sports. But I discovered another thing, which was skateboarding, and I became a professional skateboarder. And to this day, I'm still a skateboarder, and I'm almost 60 years old.
Yeah. And so while chaffles are kind of known as, you know, I think they really kind of were born out of like the keto and low carb movement over the last few years. But of course, for a lot of the folks listening to us, it satisfies two things. One, you can be low carb, it can be low sugar, it can be low fat, depending on what you put in and how you do it. But it's also small, like one little, basic recipe, two of those little mini waffles. And, for a lot of us bariatric folk, boom, we're done. We're full. And, and you feel like you're eating something.
Yeah, it's very filling. And with adding on different items and ingredients and making sandwiches, etc. I've many a time had a sandwich that I just couldn't eat the whole thing. And that's just two chaffles acting as pieces of bread.
So you then decided at some point, like while you're doing this, like, I'm going to start taking a picture of these things because your Instagram it's like some artwork you got going on some of these.
Thank you very much. Well, I did dabble in photography for some time as well, so I have a good understanding of lighting and presentation. So I spend a lot of extra time fiddling and making sure that the food looks like it's good, because we eat with our eyes too, and something's got to look appetizing as well. I'm never short of ideas, and I'm always coming up with something new.
So to that end, Steve, we're going to talk and let everybody know what we're going to do, which is I have become obsessed with the chaffles since I found them. I went out, bought the little $10 Dash Mini waffle maker, the whole thing, and have been, doing a little bit of experimenting, just, adding some seasoning. But I saw your page and I just went, wait a minute, this is crazy. This is great. And so we are going to add a segment here on the podcast that is going to be the chaffle, not chaffle of the week, but I don't know, the chaffle of the episode. I don't know. We'll figure out some name for it. But basically, you are going to create us a chaffle. We'll have the picture of it on the website. We'll have the recipe in the show notes. And we'll put it up on our stuff and point people over to your page too, so they can see all your other great creations. So wonderful. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to that because I'm just looking forward to trying all these.
Great.
And different ways to do that in a healthy way. I do want to get around though to, you mentioned like doing that first chaffle recipe and kind of the basic. Now you talked about like almond flour and coconut flour, that kind of thing. The first one I saw, which was just the basic thing of like a half cup of cheese and 1 egg, and you just mix it and you throw it in the waffle maker. And I got to tell you, I mean, I love cheese and eggs. So for me, it was, a wonderful thing, but kind of the basic chaffle recipe can be modified in a couple different ways, right?
That's correct. The basic one that I call the basic chaffle is 2 tablespoons of almond flour, 1 egg, and a third to a half a cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. Basically, almond flour is a good root, and it's a good start. I will say that almond flour is a lot more expensive than just regular off-the-shelf flour, but the benefits for you are tremendous.
And that gives it a little more of a like bread-like flavor. Is that what it does?
That's correct.
Okay, because I haven't done that yet. I've just been sticking with the egg and cheese thing, which again I love. But I noticed that some people have like, oh, it's a little too eggy for me, or that kind of thing.
And I hear that a lot.
Right, and I get that, and I've seen that people say, well, you can, if you put in, like you said, a tablespoon or a couple tablespoons of almond flour, then it tastes a little more dough-like, more breadish.
The possibilities are absolutely open to your imagination and your taste.
All right. Well, I'm excited about it. I cannot wait. So the first one that we're doing is we're just kind of basically laying it out. So if you've never done chaffles before, the first one that you're going to see is just like the kind of the basic chaffle recipe, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, thanks so much. Again, check under the show notes. You'll see the recipe's going to be there. Our social medias are going to have the picture. And, of course, we're going to be tagging over to Steve I, the Chaffle Guy, on both Instagram and Facebook so that you can find his pages. Follow more of that. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's my new obsession. We're gonna get everybody obsessed.
Great stuff. I'm looking forward to the journey.
So once again, check our show notes for the recipe for the basic chaffle, and you can go to our Instagram and Facebook to see Steve I, the Chaffle Guy's picture of our chaffle of the week. I guess that's what we're going to end up calling it. So you can check that out, and we're going to have more coming. You can also go over to Steve I, the Chaffle Guy's Facebook and Instagram page and see a bunch of his other creations. But he is going to be creating us some exclusive chaffle recipes that you'll be able to find right here on the Bariatric Bros podcast and all of our social media. And I'm excited about that. I want to give you guys some good things to eat. And I got to tell you, after the conversation, I'm hungry. I may have to stop and go get a chaffle. And while I'm very excited about chaffles, I'm also excited about my conversation this week. The person I'm talking to is not a bariatric bro this week. As a matter of fact, it's far from it. It's actually a woman. It's my wife, Stacey. The reason I'm talking to her is because I've seen over these last few months, not only on all the support groups, but I've received messages. And as a matter of fact, even just in the last week, was talking with someone online who is not getting support from their significant other in this process about doing it, whether they're in the process now, have already had surgery, or thinking about it. And I can give my best advice, but I've not been on the other side of it. But my wife has. She was the one who, when I came in and said, I went to this seminar and I'm going to have this surgery, she was behind it and she was there. And while we talked about it, I don't think I ever really sat down and said, what were you really thinking at the time? So I thought this conversation might be helpful to someone, whatever stage you are in the process and whatever level of support or not support that you're receiving from your significant other. I started my conversation with my bride by asking her, when I came home from that very first seminar more than 2 years ago and said, this is what I want to do, what were her first thoughts?
I had wondered about the cost. I mean, I hate to say it, but I had wondered if, although you had said, hey, if I invest this money, I'm going to stick with it. Mm-hmm. There is the little question in my mind on if that is so. But I also
and that's based on my past history.
Well, yes.
Because I've done other things. I've talked about it, that I did Metafast and I did... going back to Nutrisystem way back when.
Right.
And nothing has ever really stuck.
Right.
That I could keep to long term.
Exactly. But then I also thought about health, mobility. And because of those two things, I wanted it to work.
I mean, I guess I thought about cost because, of course, I thought about that too when they talked about insurance. So I kind of was like, oh, well, let me check and make sure our insurance would cover this. And as it turned out, other than copays, I think pretty much, right? It covered everything.
Well, it put us above our
deductible.
So, right. Yeah. I mean,
I should point out that you're the money person in the household. So that's why it's kind of like, I don't know, but so.
I mean, before you actually reached the actual operation itself, we had reached the deductible.
Now I'm 16 months out from surgery. What's your take on it now?
Oh, I'm delighted you went and had it, and it's worth every penny. And even if insurance hadn't have covered it, it would be worth every single penny.
All right. Why? What's it meant? I guess in what I'm asking is, I know what it's meant to me. I've talked about what it's meant to me. What's it meant for you?
I do not worry about you being around. I know that you are healthier now, and that wasn't a daily worry or concern on my part. But there would be times, especially when we would try to go out and do something like walking in the woods or something along those lines. And sometimes you're breathing and all with that. And I would think, okay, wait a minute. He needs to be around for us. And I don't worry about that now. I mean, you can now outwalk me. And not just because my ankles are bad at the moment, but, but I mean, that's a big thing. I also see that you are overall happier.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I'm a happy guy.
Yes.
If you're an Enneagram person, I'm a 7. So tends to be, happier, go get them kind of extrovert folks to begin with.
Right. I mean, you always have been, but your weight was something that I know it weighed on you.
Gee, and I'm supposed to be the funny one.
Yes. But I mean, it did, and it doesn't now.
So right before the procedure, as we were rolling into that last phase, and we already knew about the money. We knew about that kind of thing. Was there anything that you were concerned about? Or did you just think, nope, he's got it?
I had thought about what the food might be for you, and how it related to Matt and I, how different might it be?
You afraid I was going to make you eat tofu or something?
Well, you couldn't make me eat tofu. That's not going to happen. But just in like going out to eat.
Right.
Or Wednesdays when Matt gets to pick the meal, how would it affect those sorts of things? Going out with our friends a couple of times a year and going out to a restaurant, and how might that go and look like, and trying to figure that out. And
I seem to remember a conversation, and tell me if I'm remembering this right, that we were having, especially around going out. We have a couple of couples that we go out with basically like once a quarter. It's kind of our treat for ourselves. And we just all get together and have a night out. And I seem to remember, if I'm remembering the conversation correctly, that you were concerned that they were going to feel weird around me in what I could eat.
Well, that was because we had one set and you were still on limited. It was after
it was close to post-op. So
yeah.
It was.
So you were on very limited, and I was concerned because we're going to sit there and you're going to be sitting at the table going, I can't eat any of this food.
Right. If I remember, I think I was I might have, I don't even know if I was at soft foods yet.
I don't remember.
I think
you
were,
or you might have been right around that time when you could start putting some soft food in. But anyway, so yeah, that had been a concern, but that was more for that particular night because, the last thing we want to do is sit there and you can't eat anything that we are having, And
in our little group, I'm like kind of the biggest foodie. So a lot of times the group would be like, I'd be looking for a restaurant to take everybody and like, let's go have a new experience and try something new.
Right.
So yeah, that idea of we go somewhere and then, the guy who is like the biggest one to want to try something new can't eat anything except some soup maybe.
Right. And that was my concern for that particular thing. Because, you said I'm fine with that, but I know how I would feel. This was supposed to be a big treat. And you literally could not have had anything to eat.
Right.
So instead we did what? We went to somebody's house and we ordered in like pizza or something, right?
That's right.
Because then you could bring your own food
or something.
Yeah. And then you brought your own food that you were able to eat.
Right.
And
it wasn't centered around food. The night wasn't centered around food. No. It was more centered around just us hanging.
Right.
And then there was like pizza, and I probably just brought protein drink or something.
Right. But whatever you could have, you brought it along. So at least when we were eating, you were having something too.
Right.
Unlike if we had gone to a restaurant at that point, you may not have been able to eat anything.
Right. Because a lot
they
of
might
times
not have had anything.
They don't like it when you bring in your own food.
Exactly.
And drink,
Exactly. So, that was a concern, but that was only for that particular time. But I mean, you do most of the cooking. I'm very blessed with that. And I was a little concerned about you maybe having to make 2 different meals a night and that sort of thing. And there have been nights when you have fixed 3 different meals, a different one for each one of us.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, that was a concern that I had that hasn't happened.
Right.
I mean, once you were able to eat regular food, then we didn't have that as a problem.
I didn't think about this, but I do wonder if it'd be different if you were the main cook as opposed to me doing it. I mean, in a way, we've kind of been doing this for a longer time because when I was on Metafast or I was hard into Atkins or any of those things, I was kind of doing that anyway because it was never, and this is not saying that you were supportive in all of those things. You've always been super supportive. But super supportive doesn't mean that you were necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go do this with you. I mean, you didn't do Metafast with me.
No.
You didn't go all Atkins with me, you know, that kind of thing. So, I mean, you're hardcore on, there's some things that, you know, you're not giving up in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Bread and pasta.
Pasta.
Those will always be.
Sweets.
Yeah.
I mean, I need a little bit of those 3 food groups, yes.
So I do wonder if that, but I mean, I wondered if that would be a little different in that. But again, we'd always been kind of in that mode for a lot of years because of those kinds of things. So
I mean, it definitely, I would have felt more pressure if I had been the main cook. And I remember even asking you in the beginning for like the things that I do fix. Are you going to be able to eat this?
Right, because there are some dishes that you do that I don't fix. There are things that you're really good.
Right.
You have this great meatloaf that handed down from your mom that I really do enjoy. Now, it's got breadcrumbs in it. So I remember I probably had more issues when I was like hardcore Atkins than I would having it now. Because it's funny, since the surgery, I don't stress as much about the carb or even the calorie count or even sugars and fat. I know some people have to be really into those macros on food because of what their particular situation is.
Right.
Some people I know are still like super, that's got X grams of fat in it. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And that's totally cool if that's your thing. For me, it's really just been about the reduction of the amount of food. I do tend to eat lower carb and in that and get my nutrients and make sure my protein is forward. But things like your meatloaf, whereas before I'd have been like, oh, I really want more, but it's got breadcrumbs in it, so I'm trying not to eat as much. Now it's funny, I actually seem like I have more freedom. At least I feel like I have more freedom to go, I can just enjoy this and not even think about it, because I also know I'm only eating 4 ounces of it at a time. I'm not going to be tempted to go get another big bowl full of it or plate full of it because I can't do it. It would hurt me. So, yeah, there's some things that way.
I mean, I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I think that is probably true. And I think that's why, in some ways, I think you are happier now with this than with other ways to lose weight, because there are certain things that you have cut out. You don't eat bread on a daily basis. So that you do feel the freedom that if it has breadcrumbs in it, okay, I can have that.
Right.
Whereas I think some of your other ways to try and lose weight, it brought on more of a feeling, it seemed to me. It may not be, but it seemed to me that it brought on more of a feeling of guilt if you did something then, because you weren't following their plan.
Yeah, I was going to, I mean, my thought was,
like,
as you were saying
I have to make
that,
up for it.
Yeah, my thought was, as you were saying that, was more, I was denying myself. Like, or I wasn't when I did it, but that I really should be denying myself. So yeah, I guess it was guilt in that way, because if I had it, I was like, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Right. Or you would say something along the lines of, okay, if we're going to do meatloaf on Friday night, I really got to be good the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And you would say that kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with planning out your cheats and all of that. But there is a difference in, okay, I can have this. It's not a cheat.
Right. And
it's a controlled portion.
Right. And I've said on here that I really do hate the word cheat, because then it makes it something, it turns it into something wrong. When it really shouldn't be something wrong. It should just be part of the plan. And the plan is, hey, I know if you and I are going to take a trip up to Lancaster, we are going to hit our favorite ice cream spot. And I know to plan for that. Like, we're going to Lancaster. We are definitely hitting Roll Cold. And so we're, I'm going to make sure that I'm eating my, getting my protein in the
Right.
morning, because that's just going to be some sugar, and some cream, and that's all that is. And even around it, I have to eat the right thing because I don't do well with sweets on top of something else in my eating plan now. It just doesn't hit my stomach the same way. So yeah, it is more of a planning thing for me now when I do it, but I don't think of it as bad. Yeah.
Right.
I just like, hey, we get a chance to do this. I'm going to have some. I also know that I'm not going to get through even their small serving.
Right. Exactly.
And while there's a little bit of me that's like, oh, I want to finish that, but I also know that it's great that I don't have to, and it feels good. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was about this side of it. I've had some guys write to me and say, I'm not getting the support from my spouse, whether it's they don't, they think it's too much trouble or whatever the reason is. There's some issues with this if whoever's on the other side of your life is not a part of what's going on. And what I mean is they don't have to have it, but that you're not having conversations around it and understanding it and understanding what goes into it and what it means. And that's concerning to me, because I'm just intrigued about why someone who, whether you're married or engaged or living together, whatever the situation is, someone that you're professing to love, that you're not going to support them getting healthy or not going to be their cheerleader. And that may be some other relationship pieces going on behind the scenes. But I guess I wanted to encourage those guys that are going through that. And would you think is the best thing just communication? Is it just to sit down and kind of explain why you want to do this and what the reason is behind it?
I would think that really the best start would be is to look at the other person and say, I feel like you're not on board with this. Tell me why. And then really listen to what the reason is. Are they scared about the money? Are they scared about the work because they are the ones who do all of the cooking? Is there concern about the cost of the food afterwards? Because adding in more fresh fruits and vegetables, unfortunately, that costs money. It's not even just the cost of the operation itself. It's then the additional cost, vitamins, all of that, which, are not really as expensive as I had first thought that they might be. Is it because they, much like me, are like, you're going to end up weighing less than me when this is all over, and I don't know I can deal with that.
That has not happened
yet.
I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. Well, it might come way too close.
I understand what you're saying is that if both of you are dealing with any type of weight issue,
right? Yeah,
all of a sudden it could be that you're in a different place.
Right.
There could be an emotional aspect of you're going to lose weight and you might start getting some attention from some other women.
It could be
that you might not have gotten before, and I don't want to deal with that, or I don't.
It could be. Because again, especially if we're talking about your partner is a woman, we are very much more geared to judging ourselves on our physical appearance. Men tend to be more confident with that than women are. And so, and if that's the case with her, that's going to be really hard for her to admit that, are you going to end up being too good looking? Right. That's, and also then the fear is if they've had any kind of problems before now, are they going to want a prettier, thinner, younger person? And that may be something that she's not willing to talk about.
But that'd be something for the guy to reassure without saying.
Right.
I mean, that's
the tricky part. That is the tricky part.
Because if she doesn't bring it up,
right,
you can and oh, by the way, honey, I'm not thinking about leaving you for another woman, a younger model. Then it's all of a sudden, if it wasn't in her head, now it is.
That's right,
you know?
exactly.
So,
but I mean, it could always be where maybe if she's just going like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you can just say, hey, is this emotional? Is it money? Talk to me about what is going on. And hopefully you can get them to open up. But I mean, there could be a lot of reasons for it, but really the best way is just to try and just confront it head on and just be like, hey, this is, and again, they always say, use the feeling words. I'm feeling this way.
Right. So when you're having the
I'm
conversation,
not accusing you of
right.
not being supportive. I'm feeling like you have some concerns that maybe you haven't talked with me about. So can we talk about that?
Right. Because some guys like me,
mm-hmm.
my situation was not about weight loss
mm-hmm.
as much as it's a great side effect. Mine was blood pressure situation. Mm-hmm. And it was an option to lower my blood pressure and not have to go on meds. Mm-hmm. For others, it's a diabetes situation. Mm-hmm. For others, the weight could just be causing some of the myriad of other issues that obesity causes.
Right.
And so that's the entrance into the conversation,
mm-hmm.
which much like you were concerned about with me, you get to say, my main reason for doing this is because my doctor said my blood pressure was too high and I have to go on meds, and that can shorten my life. And I really mm-hmm. want to live as long with you and our family as long mm-hmm. as we can, so there's your entrance in, because it is a health thing, no matter what,
right.
Even if it is just a weight loss issue,
right?
Even if it is I just don't want to be this big anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just a weight loss issue. It's still a health issue because you will be healthier and you will feel better.
Well, and be open about what it is. Don't do the generic, oh, it's for my health. Oh, it's for my sugar count. It's for my blood pressure. You had mentioned to me that it had been slowly going up. And I know for years it was way in the good range,
Oh, I was healthy as a horse.
Right.
That's why I said I used that as a crutch for years, that I was super healthy.
It was not till after the operation and you took it and you said, oh, that's a little bit better. I don't remember what it was. And I looked at you and I said, excuse me? Because you had said, oh, it has started to creep up, but you never actually told me how bad it had gotten until after the operation. And I went, wait, what?
Yeah,
because if you had told me that in the beginning, then I all of the concerns and thoughts that I had, I would have been like, I don't care. I don't care about that. We need to take care of this, because again, there is my big fear that I had.
Gotcha.
Are you going to be around? So if you have said, oh, I think it will be better for my health. But if your doctor has said, hi, your blood pressure is consistently like 170 over 105, tell her that, because that's big time concern.
Right. That's a good thing, is to be specific.
Right.
With your partner about, hey, this is what's happening. And
right.
like I said, even if it is just, hey, I am morbidly obese.
Right.
I am categorized morbidly obese, and I don't want to live this way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel better when I walk. I want to sleep better. I want to have better sex. I mean, look, that's a factor. All of those things are factors in this. And if
right.
that's the case, lead with that.
Right.
Lead with those benefits and why you are passionate
right.
about wanting to do this.
Right. And if it's because your sugar is going up, then say, you know what? Guess what? I am pre-diabetic. Don't just say, well, my sugar is rising. Make them aware if there is a health reason. Be open about it and just say, hey, this is the deal. If it is just, hey, I don't feel like I'm going to be around for our kid if I don't get this under control. I mean, be honest yourself about what your fears and concerns are. And then hopefully that will also encourage your partner to be open about what their fears and concerns are.
And it can be tough to unpack that.
Yes, it can be.
Because as much as I was a happy big guy and doing things that, like living life and not really thinking about my weight, I would catch myself in a mirror sometimes, or I would see a picture and be unhappy and just went, well, that's just how I am. That's, push it back, let it go. So I think there were things that are deeper down that I did not, that I never unpacked, because it was like, why unpack that? Why even think about that? Because nothing's changing. As much as I try, whatever I try, it's not changing, or it helps for a while, but I can't stay with it. Yeah, I will say what you said earlier is right. I haven't really thought about it, but I'm happier now than I have been. And it's even little things like just waking up and getting out of bed and realizing like, hey, my legs aren't hurting this morning, or my knees or ankles aren't hurting this morning because I walked a mile yesterday. They just feel better and I feel better. So honesty with your partner and talking about it, confronting them in love, not, confronting them, but I mean, sitting down and having that talk. And like you said, using the feeling words. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling like you're having an issue with something that we haven't discussed, and I'd really like to talk about it. And I think you have to express your feelings on why it's so important to you.
Right.
And what you are hoping to get out of this. It's going in with the openness to understand that your life change that you need to do for your health will affect those around you and how that's going to affect them. And so maybe even with this conversation, if you're pre-op, you can be thinking through those steps after, and having that conversation of not just how are we feeling about it now, but here's what's going to happen. Like you said, the food issue. What's that food going to look like for us moving forward? If you're a couple that goes out all the time and socializes, what are the changes that are going to need to be made? Maybe short term, like I've talked about so many times, that 8 to 10 weeks from pre-op to post-op, right around that, is kind of a lockdown situation. Like you shouldn't be really doing a whole lot other than just focusing on yourself, getting healed, eating the right things. Once you get back into real food, then the socialization and stuff can start again. I mean, the alcohol can be a big issue with some folks, because you're not going to be able to drink if you were a moderate drinker before, or go out and spend a night at a bar. I mean, go out and spend a night at a club or bar, but you're going to be very careful about any alcohol intake. So I think it's just all those things to stop and think through during this process.
Well, and the thing is really get the details down on what it is. You were very good about, okay, this is what it's going to be. These are the steps I have got to do for like insurance to cover it. I have to go see this person and that person and blah, 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 blah. Then when it's time, this is what my pre-op is going to look like. This is what my post-op is going to look like. Then that's going to go from liquids to soft foods to eventually, this. And then once I'm doing it, I'm going to be able to eat whatever, depending on There might be certain foods that trigger a bad reaction. I won't know till I get there.
Right. What sits with me, what doesn't sit with me.
Right, exactly. So some things I may have to adjust when I start bringing all of the regular, for lack of a better term, food in. And the thing is, that made it easier to think about and plan because you were very detailed on it. If you don't have the specifics to tell your partner, this is what it is, and for a while I'm going to be on liquids, and it's like, okay, what's a while? Wait a minute, what? Again.
And what's a liquid?
Right.
I mean, that.
Oh, yeah.
That, I mean, even with patients, I see on some of the support groups, people are going, can I have this? I'm like, it should be all in your literature on what you can and can't have. And it has to be very specific.
Right. And so that can help get a person on board because now they know exactly what to expect.
Right.
Versus, well, it's going to be some changes and I'm going to have to do this. And okay, for how long? Is that for the next couple of years? I mean, what is it?
You're going to be giving up part of this cabinet for vitamins and for just protein things and things you're not going to want, but I'm going to need, or whatever.
And so anyways, but that can help, because the person, because again, your partner might not want to say, well, I'm concerned about the money. But if you can give specifics, well, then maybe they can even start going, oh, well, let me take a look at this or that. And okay, that's not as bad as I thought it might be. And so they might be able to even answer, even if they don't want to admit it's the money.
Right.
I don't want to put a price on your health,
Right.
But they can maybe start, oh, you're only going to be doing that for 4 weeks. Oh, okay, wait a minute. That sort of thing can be a comfort.
I mean, nowadays, everything's online. So, I mean, if you're of a mindset, like let's just take the financial aspect, you can put a budget together for once you're done, like, here's what I'm going to be eating. Because all vitamin prices are online. You can find those. You can find, so you're doing protein drinks or you're going to order powders and you know that it's going to last a month, or you can work out a basic budget for the food or the things that maybe you're just going to eat. So I think all those things blended together will at least get you on the right direction. Talking with your significant other about this and coming to hopefully either some point where they can be supportive, because I can't imagine trying to do this without you being supporting me in what we're doing with this. I mean, now it's great. 2020, no, not the year, hindsight, is much easier to look and go, I mean, if you had seen a picture of me now and how I am now, when I had come home from that seminar going, hey, I want to do this. And those first thoughts flashed in your mind, I'm guessing you'd have been like, yep, 100%. Because of what it's meant to us.
Right.
So I would say have that conversation. Also reach out to other folks. I mean, I've talked about this, especially in the last few weeks. All the support groups online, that are there on Facebook or whatever, reach out to others in the community about those conversations that they had with their significant others in about this and how it kind of came to be, because they're there. Reach out to us. You can DM us on the socials. You can text us. You can send us an email. It's all there in the show notes, but we would love to hear from you if you need some direction or maybe your story's got a little twist to it. Let us know. You need to have that conversation if you feel like there's a struggle. Honestly, you should probably have that conversation anyway, just at the beginning, like you were talking about, the whole plan out thing, to kind of do that. I mean, we just kind of naturally have that. I want to say our marriage is perfect and we never argue, but, being real, But it's one of those things that with this, it was just kind of like, yeah, hey, this is what it is. This is what it means. I'm going to lay it out so that everybody understands what's going to happen during that time. And I think that's probably one of the reasons it went so smoothly in that pre-op, post-op stuff, which I think is I think that's probably a tough point for a lot of couples because it's, you're going in for surgery, then you're home and your life is upside down for a few weeks.
Right.
Until things kind of smooth back out and get back to quote unquote normal. Well, thank you for spending some time and doing this.
Sure.
Again, I want to say a major thank you to my wife, Stacey, for being on the podcast and really opening herself up to talk about this process and what she thought and went through as I was going through this life change for my health. Being on the microphone and in the spotlight like this is not exactly something she enjoys, so I really appreciate her taking the time to do it. I hope that maybe it provided you with some encouragement, maybe some talking points with your significant other if you're struggling with getting that support in your journey. As I said, you can always reach out to us here at the Bariatric Bros podcast. I would encourage you to reach out on the support groups on Facebook, get involved in some of those, but you can always, again, reach out to us here. You hit us up in the show notes. We've got our email, our phone number that you can text us. We will get back to you. You can hit us up on any of the DMs on social, and we're there for you in all things. And as we wrap up this week, I ask that you would follow us on all of our social media. We're at Bariatric Bros on Instagram and Facebook and every place else. You can, again, email us and text us, all those details in the show notes. And if you would, please, you can like and subscribe, depending on your podcast provider. And if your podcast provider has a review feature, would you do that? Would you leave a quick little 5-star review and say a few words? It really does help others find the show. And that's what we're hoping to do, is to spread this message out and get more of this great content and information out to other bariatric bros. And also, you can share the show. Almost every place where you listen to this has a little share button on there where you can push it out on your social media. We'd love to get this one out to more people than ever. I want to thank you for your support and for listening and for sharing and liking and reviewing. So I can't wait till we get together next time right here on the Bariatric Bros podcast. I'm Mike Alley. You keep living that bariatric life and eating like men.